After the 31 ghosts from the North almost took the president's head, South Korea was blinded by fury. The slogan was simple: an eye for an eye. If the North sent 31 men, the South would send 31 of its own. They gathered 31 outcasts, criminals, laborers, and drifters, and gave them a choice: rot in prison or become a hero. They were taken to a deserted island called Silmido. Their mission? Infiltrate Pyongyang and decapitate Kim Il-sung. They were named Unit 684. For the state, they didn't exist. They were ghosts created to kill a god. Silmido was a hell on earth. For 3 years, they underwent training so lethal that 7 of them died before they even saw the enemy. They crawled through human waste, climbed razor-sharp cliffs, and were forced to kill each other in hand-to-hand combat to prove their resolve. Their trainers, Air Force intelligence officers, were just as isolated. Together, they became a pack of wolves, honed to a razor's edge. They were ready to die. They were waiting for the word, go. But the word never came. The winds of the Cold War shifted. Suddenly, the North and South were talking about peace. The Vengeance Squad became a political liability. Their pay stopped. Their food rations dwindled. For the government, the 31 men on Silmido were no longer heroes. They were a mistake that needed to be erased, fearing they would be executed to bury the secret. The wolves turned on their masters. On August 23, 1971, the silence of Silmido was shattered by the sound of mutiny. They killed their trainers, escaped the island, and hijacked a bus to Seoul. They wanted to speak to the president they were supposed to protect. But as they entered the capital, they were met by tanks and paratroopers, surrounded and bleeding in the middle of the city street. The survivors realized there was no way out. In a final act of defiance, they pulled the pins on their grenades. A massive explosion ended the unit. But the mystery began. The state called them armed agents from the North. They lied again. It would take 30 years for the truth of Unit 684 to emerge from the shadows. The state created them. The state betrayed them, and the state tried to forget them. But the files remain. The explosion in Seoul was heard by millions, but the truth was buried in silence. For decades, the families of the 31 men on Silmido were told their sons had simply vanished. The state burned the records, bulldozed the barracks on the island, and erased Unit 684 from history. It wasn't until 2003 that the first photos of their brutal training were found in an old Air Force warehouse. Snapshots of ghosts. Today, a small memorial stands on a lonely cliff, the only physical proof that they ever existed. The Cold War had many battlefields, but Silmido was the only one where a country declared war on its own sons. The file on Unit 684 is closed, but the question remains: who were the real monsters? The men trained to kill, or the state that ordered them to die?